The day I discovered my mother had stolen my future started like any other Thursday. I was sitting in the financial aid office at Berkeley, expecting to sort out a minor paperwork issue. Instead, I learned that my entire college fund had been emptied 3 days ago. My name is Eliza, and I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I was wrong. I'm sorry, but there must be some mistake, I said, leaning forward in the hard plastic chair. That account was set up when I was born. My grandparents left that money specifically for my education. The financial aid officer, her nameplate read Ms. Thompson, gave me that practiced look of sympathy I'd come to hate. The withdrawal was authorized by the primary account holder, your mother. Everything appears to be in order legally. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother Carter. Got into Harvard Med. Mom's throwing a celebration dinner tonight. Be there by 7. The pieces clicked together with nauseating clarity. I stumbled out of the office into the bright California sunshine, my vision blurring. Calling my mother was futile. I knew she'd ignore me until dinner, but I tried anyway. Straight to voicemail. Hey, bestie, you look like you've seen a ghost, Sabrina called out, jogging across the quad to meet me. One look at my face and her smile vanished. What happened? She took it, Sab, all of it, my entire tuition fund. My voice cracked. Mom emptied my account to pay for Carter's medical school. She did what? Sabrina grabbed my shoulders. That's impossible. It's illegal. Not when her name was on the account, too. I laughed bitterly. Apparently, my future was just a backup plan for Golden Boy Carter all along. You have to confront her, Sabrina insisted. This is beyond messed up. Oh, I will. At Carter's celebration dinner tonight. I checked my phone again. 2:30 p.m. Want to help me plan what to say? We spent the afternoon in our favorite coffee shop, where I cycled between rage and despair while Sabrina helped me craft what I'd say. But when I walked into my childhood home that evening, all my carefully prepared speeches evaporated. The house was decorated with balloons and a "Congratulations" banner. My mother was in full hostess mode, floating around in her favorite pearl necklace, serving appetizers to relatives. Eliza, finally! She air-kissed my cheek. Carter has such wonderful news. Yeah, Mom, I heard. I forced a smile. Harvard Med. Pretty expensive, isn't it? She froze for just a fraction of a second before recovering. We'll manage. Family always finds a way. Found a way already, didn't you? I said quietly. Before she could respond, Carter bounded down the stairs. Sis, you made it. He wrapped me in a bear hug, and for a moment I almost forgot I was supposed to be angry. My brother had always been affectionate, oblivious to our mother's obvious favoritism. Dinner's ready, Mom called out, effectively ending any chance of confrontation. I sat through the toasts, the congratulations, the proud parental speeches. With each passing minute, my anger crystallized into something harder, colder. When dessert arrived, I stood up. I'd like to make a toast too, I said, raising my glass. The table fell silent. To Harvard Medical School, to achieving your dreams. I looked directly at my mother. No matter who you have to steal from to get there. Eliza! Mom's warning tone, the one that had cowed me so many times before, only fueled my resolve. Tell them, Mom. Tell everyone how you paid for Carter's acceptance. Tell them about emptying my college fund today. The silence was deafening. Carter's face drained of color. What is she talking about, Mom? I did what was necessary, she said firmly. Your brother's future is worth more than mine, I finished. Yeah, that's been pretty clear my whole life. I set my glass down with a sharp clink and grabbed my purse. Congratulations again, Carter. I hope Harvard is everything you dreamed it would be. I'll be dropping out tomorrow, by the way, since I can't afford tuition anymore. As I walked out, I heard chairs scraping, voices raised in confusion and argument. But I didn't look back. Instead, I pulled out my phone and called the one person who might be able to help me salvage my future. Gavin, it's Eliza. Remember that business idea we discussed? I'm ready to start. Tonight. Gavin's office smelled like coffee and ambition. 3 days after the disastrous dinner, I sat across from him, watching him review my business proposal on his tablet. An online marketplace for vintage college merchandise? He raised an eyebrow. Interesting angle. Think about it, I said, leaning forward. Every college has decades of design changes in their merchandise. People get nostalgic about the exact style from their era, but finding authentic vintage pieces is nearly impossible. And you want to solve that problem. Gavin set down his tablet. With zero capital and no business experience. I have something better than capital. I countered. I have 3 years of connections from working at the campus bookstore. I know every collector, every supplier, and every trend in college merchandise. Sabrina burst into the office, arms full of shopping bags. Sorry I'm late, but I got them. 5 different decades of Berkeley sweaters, all authentic. I pulled out the 1985 sweater, holding it up. This sold for $15 new. Today, collectors will pay $300 for it. And that's just Berkeley. Imagine having every major university's vintage merchandise in one place. Gavin's expression shifted from skeptical to intrigued. Show me the numbers. For the next hour, we laid out spreadsheets, market research, and a detailed business plan. When we finished, Gavin stood up and walked to his window, hands clasped behind his back. You'll need a website, authentication processes, storage space. He turned around. I can help with that, but you'll have to drop out of college. This needs your full attention. Already done, I said quietly. As of yesterday, I'm officially withdrawn from Berkeley. Your mother called me, he said suddenly. Wanted me to talk you out of leaving school. My stomach clenched. And? I told her I don't work for free. She didn't appreciate that. He smiled slightly. Look, Eliza, what happened to you was wrong. But revenge won't build a successful business. Are you doing this for the right reasons? I'm doing this because I have no choice, I shot back. But I'm also doing it because it's a damn good idea. It is, he agreed, which is why I'm investing $50,000 for a 20% stake. Sabrina squealed and hugged me. I sat there, stunned. One condition, he added. You work here in my office where I can mentor you directly. Deal? Deal, I managed to say through my shock. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Sabrina helped me set up our authentication process while juggling her own classes. We transformed a corner of Gavin's office into our operations center, with vintage merchandise carefully cataloged and photographed. Your website traffic is increasing, Gavin announced one morning, 6 weeks in. But you need more inventory, high-end stuff. I know where to get it, I said, thinking of Ray, my old classmate who'd been trying to sell his father's collection. But it's expensive. Use some of the profit from last week's sales, Gavin suggested. You're turning a profit already, might as well reinvest it. My phone buzzed. Carter calling again. I declined the call. You can't avoid your family forever, Sabrina said softly. Watch me. I turned back to my laptop. Besides, I'm busy building something they said I couldn't. That evening, as I was photographing new inventory, my mother showed up unannounced. She stood in the doorway, looking out of place in her expensive clothes. You're making a mistake, she said without preamble. This little business won't last. Come home, we'll figure something out for your tuition. I continued photographing a 1973 Yale pennant. Like what? Stealing from someone else's college fund? That money was always meant for whoever needed it most, she insisted. Carter's medical school. Get out. I finally looked at her. Unless you're here to buy something, get out. She left, but not before saying, You're throwing your life away, just like your father did. I froze. My father had died when I was young, and Mom rarely mentioned him. Something in her tone made me wonder what she wasn't telling me. Later that night, I got a text from Ray. Hey, about my dad's collection. There's something you should know. It's about your family. I stared at the message for a long time before replying, Tell me everything. The vintage Yale pennant sat on my desk, a reminder of why I started this journey. But maybe, just maybe, I was about to discover it wasn't just about the business anymore. Something bigger was unfolding, and for the first time since that day in the financial aid office, I felt a thrill of anticipation rather than anger. My phone buzzed again, another text from Ray. Meet me tomorrow, you won't believe what I found. Ray was already waiting at the coffee shop when I arrived, a thick manila envelope on the table in front of him. His expression was grave, not the usual easy smile I remembered from our college days. Before I show you this, he said as I sat down, you need to know that my father was your dad's business partner. I nearly dropped my coffee. What? Mom never mentioned... There's a lot your mom never mentioned. Ray slid the envelope across the table. My father kept everything. He always said someday the truth would matter. Inside were photographs, newspaper clippings, and documents. The first photo showed my father and Ray's dad standing proudly in front of a store. Jensen and Allen Vintage Collectibles. Your father wasn't a failure like your mom always claimed, Ray said quietly. Their business was worth millions. They were pioneers in the vintage collectibles market. My hands shook as I spread out the documents. Then what happened? Your mom happened? Ray pointed to a series of bank statements. She convinced your father to put everything in her name for tax purposes. 2 weeks before he died, she sold the business and pocketed everything. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too hot. Are you saying your college fund? That was pocket change compared to what she really took. Ray's voice was gentle. The money she's been using to support Carter all these years? It was your inheritance. My phone lit up with a notification. Our website had just hit a major sales milestone. The irony wasn't lost on me. Does Carter know? I asked. No way, he was too young to remember any of this. Ray gathered the documents back into the envelope. But here's where it gets interesting. The business she sold? It went bankrupt 6 months later. The new owners claimed fraud, said the books were cooked. I stood up abruptly. I need to show this to Gavin. An hour later, Gavin studied the documents while I paced his office. This explains why your vintage business idea came so naturally to you, he mused. It's literally in your blood. We have to go public with this, Sabrina insisted, but Gavin shook his head. Not yet. First, we need to build something bigger than your mother ever imagined. He looked at me intently. How would you like to buy back your father's original store location? My heart skipped. It's for sale? Better. It's in foreclosure. The current owner's underwater, and I know the bank holding the note. He smiled. Imagine the poetry. Your new company operating from the same building where your father started. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Carter. Sis, we need to talk, he said when I answered. I'm having doubts about medical school. The pressure from Mom, the expectations. I don't think it's what I really want. Meet me at Gavin's office, I said. There's something you need to see. Carter arrived looking exhausted, nothing like the golden boy from the celebration dinner. When I showed him the documents, he sat in stunned silence. All those years, he finally said, she made it sound like Dad was a dreamer who couldn't provide for his family. But she was the one who... He couldn't finish. The question is, Gavin interjected, what are you going to do about it? I looked at the website analytics on my screen. We'd just had our biggest sales day ever. I'm going to build something bigger than she ever dreamed possible. And Carter? I turned to my brother. If you want out of medical school, I could use help running this business. Mom will lose it, Carter warned, but he was already smiling. Mom lost it all years ago, I replied. She just doesn't know it yet. That evening, as I was leaving the office, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of my mother having dinner with someone I recognized, the lawyer who'd handled the sale of my father's business 20 years ago. Thought you should know, Ray's message followed. They've been meeting regularly. Something's up. I forwarded the photo to Gavin with a simple message. Time to accelerate our plans? His response came immediately. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Bring Carter. We're buying that building. I drove home past my father's old store location. The building was dark, abandoned, but I could almost see it as it was in that old photograph. Bright, alive, full of promise. Soon it would be again, but this time, no one would be able to steal it away. My phone buzzed with another text from my mother. Family dinner Sunday. Non-negotiable. We need to discuss your future. I smiled as I typed my response. You're right. We absolutely do. The asking price is $2 million, Gavin announced, spreading the building plans across his desk. But given the foreclosure situation, we can probably get it for half that. Carter whistled. And you think we can afford this? Show him. Sabrina nudged me, grinning. I pulled up our sales reports. We did $300,000 in revenue last month alone. Our authentication process is now the industry standard, and 3 major universities want exclusive partnerships. Holy shit, sis. Carter stared at the numbers. In just 3 months? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Ray's message made my blood run cold. Your mom's lawyer just filed paperwork claiming rights to your business name. They're saying it infringes on the old company's trademark. Unbelievable, I muttered, showing the message to Gavin. Actually, this is perfect, Gavin said, looking oddly pleased. She just proved she's been monitoring your success. Time to play our hand. A knock at the door interrupted us. A courier delivered a thick envelope, the preliminary paperwork for the building purchase. Sign here. Gavin pushed the documents toward me. Once this goes through, we'll own the building by Friday. Wait, Carter grabbed my arm. Mom's having dinner with her lawyer tonight. Let me go. I can find out what they're planning. I hesitated. Are you sure? If she realizes you're working with me? She still thinks I'm her golden child, he said bitterly. Let me use that. That evening, while Carter was at dinner with our mother, I met Ray at his father's storage unit. The space was packed with vintage merchandise, but he led me straight to a small safe in the corner. Found this yesterday, he said, entering the combination. Dad kept a separate record of all transactions with your mother. Inside was a ledger and a USB drive. The digital files show every penny she embezzled, Ray explained, including, he paused dramatically, the money she's been hiding from the IRS. My phone lit up with a text from Carter. Mom's trying to shut you down, claims trademark violation plus emotional distress. Lawyer says they file tomorrow. Perfect timing, I murmured, holding up the USB drive. Back at the office, Gavin reviewed the files while Sabrina ordered late-night pizza. This is better than we thought, he said finally. She didn't just steal from your father's business. She's been running a shell game for years, moving money around to avoid taxes. The IRS would love this. So, what's our play? Sabrina asked through a mouthful of pizza. We close on the building tomorrow morning, I decided, before she can file anything. Then, another text from Carter interrupted. Mom drunk, said something about making sure history doesn't repeat itself. What did she mean? Ray leaned forward. There's something else you need to see. He pulled out one final document, a life insurance policy on my father. The beneficiary was changed 3 days before his death. The accident report was inconclusive. The pizza turned to ash in my mouth. Are you saying... I'm saying your mother has a pattern of making problems disappear, Ray said quietly. Be careful. The next morning, I stood in front of the old building, my father's building, watching the sunrise paint the worn brick gold. Sabrina arrived with coffee, followed by Carter looking hungover. Mom's still passed out, he reported, but her lawyer's office opens in an hour. Then let's do this, I said, walking into the bank. Signing the papers took 20 minutes. When we walked out, I officially owned my father's legacy. My phone immediately buzzed. My mother. What have you done? She hissed. That building was supposed to be mine. Like everything else you stole? I shot back. Check your email, Mom. I just sent you something interesting. You have 1 hour to call off your lawyer, or the IRS gets a copy. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Oh, and Mom, I know about Dad's life insurance policy. The line went dead. Back at Gavin's office, we watched the security footage as my mother stormed into her lawyer's office, emerging 15 minutes later looking defeated. She'll back off, Carter predicted, but she won't stop. I know, I said, looking at the USB drive containing 2 decades of her crimes. That's why we're not done yet. Sabrina pulled up our website analytics. Holy crap, the publicity from buying the building just doubled our traffic. Focus on that for now, Gavin advised. Build something so big she can't touch it. Then we finish this. I completed his thought, picking up the old photo of my father in front of his store. For Dad. Ray appeared in the doorway. Just got word. Your mother's lawyer quit, but she's already meeting with another one. Let her, I smiled. The real show hasn't even started yet. The renovation crew had just finished installing the new storefront sign when my mother's Mercedes pulled up. I watched from the second-floor window as she stepped out, designer handbag clutched like a shield. Should we call security? Sabrina asked, but I shook my head. Let her come. The bell above the door chimed. We'd kept it from Dad's old shop. My mother's heels clicked across the restored hardwood floors. Impressive, she said, looking around the modernized space. Your father would have loved this. Of course, he always did prefer dreams to reality. Like the reality of how he died? I kept my voice steady. Or the reality of where his money went. She flinched but recovered quickly. I came to make you an offer. Sell me the business, all of it. I'll pay double what it's worth. Carter emerged from the back office. With what money, Mom? The inheritance you stole from us? She hadn't expected to see him here. Carter? What are you... You should be at medical school. I withdrew, he said. Turns out I prefer working with my sister to living your dreams. Mom's face hardened. Everything I did was for this family. Really? I pulled out Ray's ledger, like changing Dad's life insurance policy right before his accident. The color drained from her face. You don't understand. Mrs. Jensen? A man in a suit appeared at the door. I'm Agent Morris, IRS Criminal Investigation Division. We'd like to ask you some questions. I hadn't called them. By the look on Ray's face as he came down the stairs, he had. This isn't over, Mom hissed as the agent led her outside. Actually, it is, Gavin said, emerging from his office. Your daughter's company just signed exclusive contracts with 12 major universities. She's now worth more than you ever were. After she left with the IRS agent, Carter slumped against the counter. What happens now? Now? I gestured to the boxes of vintage merchandise waiting to be authenticated. We work. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Our sales doubled, then tripled. We hired staff, expanded our warehouse space, and launched a mobile app for collectors. Your mother's assets have been frozen, Ray reported one morning. The IRS found irregularities going back decades. I was about to respond when Sabrina burst in. You need to see this. She thrust her phone at me. It was a local news article. The headline made my stomach drop. Local businesswoman attempts suicide after fraud investigation. She's stable, Carter said from the doorway. I hadn't even heard him come in. But she's asking for us. Both of us. The hospital room was painfully white. Mom looked small in the bed, her designer clothes replaced by a plain gown. I suppose you're happy now, she said weakly. Happy? I felt the anger rise. You tried to destroy my business just like you destroyed Dad's. Your father destroyed himself, she snapped. His obsession with that store, with building something meaningful instead of practical. When he started talking about exposing our financial arrangements to the board. She stopped abruptly, realizing what she'd just admitted. So you made sure he couldn't, Carter said, his voice shaking. How did you do it, Mom? His car accident, was it really an accident? Get out, she whispered. Both of you, get out. Back at the store, Gavin was waiting with news. The IRS wants to make a deal. They'll reduce the charges if she cooperates fully. No deals, I said firmly. She needs to face everything she's done. That evening, as I locked up the store, I noticed a familiar car across the street. Ray's father, now recovered from his stroke, sat in the passenger seat. He wanted to see the store one last time, Ray explained. Dad, show her what you brought. The old man handed me a yellowed envelope. Inside was a letter from my father, dated the day before he died. Dear Eliza, it began, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. Your mother's schemes run deeper than I imagined. But remember, a business is more than money. It's a legacy. And someday, you'll build something greater than I ever could. My phone buzzed. A text from Carter. Mom's lawyer called. She wants to confess. Everything. I looked up at the store sign, glowing softly in the dusk. Jensen and Allen Vintage Collections. A legacy reborn. Dad was right, I said to Ray. This was never about the money. No, he agreed. It was about justice. Another text came through, this time from Sabrina. You need to see tomorrow's sales projections. We're about to hit 8 figures. I smiled, tucking my father's letter safely away. The truth was finally coming out. My business was thriving, and for the first time in years, I felt truly free. But something told me my mother had one last card to play. Your mother wants to meet, Gavin announced, setting his phone down. Her lawyer says she's ready to tell you everything, about your father, the business, all of it. I looked up from the vintage Yale sweater I was authenticating. Why now? Because of this. Ray walked in, waving a document. The DA's office is considering upgrading the charges. They found new evidence about your father's accident. My hands shook as I read the report. Brake lines? Deliberately cut? They're reopening the case as a potential homicide, Ray confirmed. Mom's trying to get ahead of it. Carter burst through the door, out of breath. She's selling the house, already has a buyer. Of course she is, I muttered. Liquidating assets before the trial. Sabrina, who'd been quietly monitoring our online sales, suddenly spoke up. Guys, someone just tried to hack our authentication database. They were looking for something specific, all records related to merchandise from 1995. The year Dad died, Carter said. I grabbed my keys. Ray, come with me to the storage unit. The rest of you, keep the business running. Something's not adding up. At the storage unit, Ray's father was already waiting, looking frail but determined. He pointed to a dusty box in the corner. Your father's personal collection, he explained. He kept records of everything, especially in those last months. Inside, we found a journal and dozens of Polaroid photos. One caught my eye. Dad standing next to a display case full of rare college pennants, including one that made my blood run cold. That's impossible, I whispered. That exact pennant was sold through our website last week for $50,000. Ray's father grabbed the photo. This collection was supposed to be destroyed in the fire. What fire? The warehouse fire. 2 days after your father died. Insurance paid out millions. Your mother claimed all the vintage stock was lost. My phone rang. Gavin, your mother's at the store. She's demanding to see you. Keep her there, I said. I'm bringing proof of another fraud. When we arrived, Mom was sitting in my office like she owned it. Her hospital gown had been replaced by her usual designer outfit, but her eyes were different, desperate. Going somewhere? I asked, noting her packed suitcase by the door. Selling the house was my choice, she said defensively. I need a fresh start. Like the fresh start you got after killing Dad? She flinched. You don't understand. The business was failing. He was going to expose everything, ruin us all. I had to protect our future. By cutting his brake lines? Carter's voice cracked. By burning down a warehouse full of evidence? That warehouse fire paid for your entire childhood, she snapped. Your education, your lifestyle. But the merchandise wasn't destroyed, was it? I held up the Polaroid. You moved it first. You've been selling pieces of Dad's collection slowly for years. Her face went blank. How did you... The pennant that sold last week, it's in this photo, with Dad, from 1995. I leaned forward. The same collection you claimed burned. Insurance fraud on top of everything else? You have no proof, she said, but her hands were shaking. Actually, Ray stepped forward. We do. My father kept copies of everything, including the real inventory list from the warehouse, dated after the fire. Mom stood up so quickly her chair toppled. This is why I had to do it. You're just like him, digging up the past, threatening everything I built. You built? I laughed. You stole. From Dad, from us, from the insurance company. And now you're trying to run before it all catches up to you. Mrs. Jensen? Agent Morris appeared in the doorway, flanked by 2 police officers. We have some additional questions about your husband's death. As they led her away, she turned to me one last time. I saved every penny for you kids. Everything I did was for you. No, Carter said quietly. Everything you did was for yourself. After she was gone, Gavin handed me a document. The DA wants to meet tomorrow. They're offering a deal. If she confesses to everything, including your father's death, they'll recommend a lighter sentence. And the insurance fraud? Ray asked. That's federal. Gavin smiled grimly. No deals there. I looked around the store, at the vintage merchandise displayed exactly as Dad had done it, at the old photos now hanging proudly on the walls, at Carter learning the business from the ground up like I had. She was wrong, you know, Sabrina said softly, about the business failing. Your dad's records show it was thriving. She just wanted control. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom's lawyer. She's ready to confess. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. She says to bring the old photos. All of them. It's a trap, Carter warned. Probably, I agreed, but I'll be ready this time. I picked up Dad's journal, running my fingers over his familiar handwriting. Tomorrow would change everything, but first we had a store to run. The district attorney's office felt colder than I remembered. Mom sat across the table, her designer outfit replaced by prison orange, her perfectly manicured nails now bare and bitten. Before we begin, her lawyer said, my client has a proposition. No deals, I replied, but Mom raised her hand. Just listen, Eliza, please. Her voice cracked on my name. There's a storage unit in Sacramento. The key is in my bedroom safe. Everything your father collected, the real collection, it's all there. Carter, sitting beside me, leaned forward. The collection you said burned? Worth millions now, she continued. I've been selling pieces slowly, building a nest egg. It's all yours, both of you, if you drop the charges. The DA cleared his throat. Mrs. Jensen, are you attempting to bribe witnesses? I'm trying to protect my children, she snapped. Everything I did was for us. Yeah, we know. I pulled out Dad's journal. But here's what I don't understand. The warehouse fire, Dad's accident, the stolen business, that all makes sense. Evil sense, but sense. What I don't get is this entry. I opened to a marked page and read aloud. Eloise seems different since the board meeting. Distant. Scared. Something about the overseas accounts doesn't add up. Mom's face went white. Funny thing, I continued. Ray's father remembered those accounts. Said they belonged to someone named Marcus. Ring any bells? Don't, she whispered. Marcus was Dad's brother, wasn't he? The one you said died before I was born? Carter's voice was steel. Except he didn't die. He disappeared with millions in company money. Money you helped him steal. The DA sat up straighter. Is this true, Mrs. Jensen? Marcus was a mistake, she said quietly. Your father found out. He was going to report everything, ruin all our lives. I had to stop him. By killing him? I slammed the journal down. Your own husband? I loved your father, she shouted. But he was weak, always putting principles before family. Marcus promised we'd be set for life if I helped him. When your father discovered the truth, you chose money over him, Carter finished. I chose survival. She turned to the DA. Fine, you want a confession? Here it is. I helped Marcus steal the money. When David threatened to expose us, I cut his brake lines. I staged the warehouse fire to hide the missing inventory. I took everything from my children's inheritance. Happy now? The room fell silent. The DA's recorder blinked red. And Marcus? He prompted. Mom laughed bitterly. Dead. For real this time. Heart attack in Buenos Aires 3 years ago. The money's gone, gambling, bad investments. That's why I needed Eliza's college fund for Carter. Why I tried to stop her business before she dug too deep. Mrs. Jensen, the DA said formally, you understand this confession, combined with the new evidence, means 20 to life? She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. I understand I've lost everything that matters anyway. As the guards let her out, she turned back. The storage unit key. Get it before they seize the house. That collection was your father's legacy. It should be yours. That evening, we gathered in the store. Ray's father had insisted on coming, despite his health. The safe combination, he said, handing me a slip of paper. David told me, just in case, said his wife had been acting strange. The house felt empty when we arrived. In my mother's bedroom, the safe opened with a soft click. Inside lay a single key and a letter. My dearest children, I read aloud. If you're reading this, the truth about Marcus and your father has finally come out. The collection in Sacramento isn't just vintage merchandise, it's evidence. Every piece tells part of the story. Your father was building a case, right until the end. Now it's yours to finish. Love, Mom. A confession and a treasure map, Sabrina mused. Think it's real? Only one way to find out, Carter said, grabbing the key. My phone buzzed. Gavin. The DA called. Your mother's officially pleading guilty to all charges. And Eliza, our website just hit 1 million users. I looked around my mother's room one last time. The photos on her dresser, family vacations, graduations, forced smiles hiding deadly secrets. Sacramento's 3 hours away, Ray said. We could go tonight. No, I decided. First, we celebrate. The truth's out, the business is thriving, and Dad's finally got justice. And tomorrow? Carter asked. I pocketed the key. Tomorrow we find out what other secrets Mom's been keeping. But right now we've won. As we left the house, I saw my mother's lawyer pulling up. One last thing she wanted you to know, he called out. The combination to that storage unit, it's not what you think. Be careful what you wish for. I gripped the key tighter. Something told me this wasn't over yet. The Sacramento storage facility loomed before us in the early morning light. Carter gripped the key while Ray checked the unit number from Mom's letter. Unit 247, he confirmed. But your mother's lawyer was right. Something's off. This facility only opened 5 years ago. Then how did Dad store anything here? I wondered aloud. Sabrina, who'd been checking her phone, suddenly grabbed my arm. Guys, the business registration for this place. The owner is Marcus. The key felt heavier in Carter's hand. Dead Marcus? Mom's partner in crime Marcus? Our uncle Marcus, I corrected, who supposedly died in Buenos Aires. The unit's lock clicked open. Inside, instead of vintage merchandise, we found a single desk with a laptop and a note. Password: the day you stopped believing in fairy tales. The day Dad died, Carter whispered. The laptop hummed to life. A video file started playing automatically, showing our Uncle Marcus, very much alive, recording from what looked like a tropical location. Hello, kids. If you're watching this, your mother finally cracked. The truth is, I never stole that money. Your father and I were investigating your mother's embezzlement scheme. She discovered us and, well, you know what happened to David. My hands shook as I gripped the desk. The vintage collection was real, Marcus continued, but it wasn't in this unit. Check your father's old office, the one you're running your business from now, Eliza. Behind the north wall, David built a secret room before he died. Everything's there, including proof of your mother's crimes going back 30 years. Carter was already calling Gavin. Get a contractor to the store, now. Back at our building, the contractor's tools revealed a hidden door behind the vintage display case. Inside, climate-controlled and perfectly preserved, was Dad's real collection, and so much more. Look at this, Ray's father breathed, holding up a ledger. Every transaction, every scheme, every dollar your mother stole. David documented everything. But why didn't Marcus come forward? Sabrina asked. Another video file answered that question. This one from a hidden camera in Dad's office the day he died. Mom's voice came through clearly. If anything happens to me, Marcus, my friends in Buenos Aires will ensure you actually do die this time. She was blackmailing him, Carter realized, forcing him to play dead while she controlled everything. My phone rang, an international number. Hello, Eliza? Marcus's voice was older than in the video, but unmistakable. Found my little time capsule, did you? Where are you? Somewhere safe. Now that your mother's going to prison, I can finally come home. The vintage collection, the real one, it's yours. Both of you. It's what David wanted. And the evidence? Already sent copies to the FBI. Your mother's friends in Buenos Aires are being arrested as we speak. Her entire network is falling apart. After hanging up, I walked through the hidden room, touching each carefully preserved piece. Dad's collection, his real legacy, had been here all along, right behind my office wall. Eliza, Gavin called from the main room. You need to see this. The store was filled with reporters. News of the hidden room, the evidence, the international crime ring. It had all broken at once. Our website had crashed from traffic. Make a statement, Gavin urged. This is better than any marketing campaign. I stepped forward, Carter at my side. My father built this business on trust and authenticity. Today, we found proof that his principles were worth dying for. Moving forward, Jensen and Allen Vintage Collections will continue his legacy, not just in selling vintage merchandise, but in valuing truth above all. Later that evening, as the media frenzy died down, I sat in Dad's hidden room, reading his final journal entry. My dearest Eliza, you've always seen the value in things others overlook. Trust that instinct. The truth, like vintage treasures, only grows more valuable with time. Carter appeared in the doorway. Mom's lawyer called. She's refusing visitors, but she left this for you. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a single photo, Mom and Dad on their wedding day, young and in love, before greed poisoned everything. On the back, in Mom's handwriting, I'm sorry, some things are worth more than money. I learned too late. I pinned the photo to the wall, next to Dad's original store sign. What now? Sabrina asked, surveying our expanded empire. Now? I smiled, picking up a vintage Yale pennant, the real one this time. Now we build something worthy of Dad's legacy. Something true. Through the window, I could see our store's sign glowing in the dusk. Below it, customers lined up despite the late hour, drawn by the day's revelations, each one hoping to own a piece of history, real history this time. The truth had finally set us all free.